So I was talking about the future timeline, okay? And the future timeline, the first time I really did a future timeline was it was a future timeline walk, is what we did, and Janie led it. And what I wanted to do a future timeline walk on was to get my wife into treatment, right? Get my wife to matter because she was at home struggling with using. And so that brought me to the question, do I have permission?
Really important question when doing these techniques.
For me to do a technique on behalf of another person, I need their permission. So one of the ways in which, the way in which I got permission, because I couldn't call her, and even if I did, I doubt she'd have answered at the time, was I muscle tested. Another awesome technique that we teach here, that we teach in within holographic human transformation theory, the muscle testing, and what I got was a yes. Of course, do the future timeline. So I did this future timeline walk on Amy being here, getting treatment, and one of the things that I did in this is I wasn't super specific at all. my timeline orientation was a little skewed. I think I had like a month out, and I would have her, she would be in treatment here. And I wasn't specific whether residential or outpatient. And I remember the feeling. I remember in the future timeline walk, the feeling. And I remember even something was on her head, but it wasn't a hat. I remember doing this future timeline walk, and much of it was very real, but there was some details. I just wasn't detailed enough in doing the future timeline walk. And so just after her going to the hospital, as I told you about before, guess where she was? Here, I met her. I come to find out later on what the hat, or what it was something on her head, but it wasn't her hat. She had to do a study where they hooked up electrode things all on her head and walk around like that for 3 days. And this all really happened. Like, this all really happened. It was just bizarre. I started doing a lot of future timelines. One of the future I started getting, I'll get to questions in a minute. I started to get to very experimental with the future timelines, and very specific with them. So I told you my a little bit about my criminal history. I had all my cases resolved, not even probation at the time, and I had gotten a deal with the case that had the first degree felony up in Salt Lake, that if I had to plead guilty to the first degree felony to get any sort of deal, not even knowing what the deal was. I was frightened. And that would be my 16th conviction felony. Not charged. That was somewhere in the 40s, I think. But 16th conviction felony, and a first. So I matrixed out at the second to the last box. I think 96 months, 85 months or something like that. I was frightened, but it was the only way I can get any sort of deal, so I took it. And I thought to myself, how did I get this far? As far as I am now. Through all these other charges, through matter, through healing, a relationship starting to be built with my wife and my kids again. Like, I continue doing what I'm doing and add more. So I did. I remember doing a guided image, this future timeline guided imagery, right? And I'm thinking in my head, okay, well, these things really happen, okay? When I do a future timeline, it evolves, it becomes, it manifests, it is real, like it happens, right? And I know that for someone that knows nothing about holographic human transformation theory, or you probably think I'm crazy. Well, I'll take it. I'll take crazy. I decided that if I did a future timeline guided imagery and placed myself somewhere very specific after being sentenced, then that is what would take place, which would mean I didn't go to prison or get locked up. So I did this future timeline, and I placed myself at the Maverick downtown Salt Lake, near the freeway, because it's a route away, from the, courthouse back to the freeway. And so I placed myself in this Maverick, and as I was getting out of the vehicle, and walking into the Maverick, I noticed these two people, images. One was like all in black, and one was, they were probably dealing drugs, okay? And I remember walking into the gas station, and I'd walked over to the hot dog stand, get a little chili cheese dog, 'cause it's something I did, so it's very easy to imagine. I remember feeling contention as I'm standing there, like a real negative vibe, like just, it was kind of scary in the guided imagery because I didn't want to be feeling that shit, and not with what I was doing this guided imagery for. I didn't want to feel that. And so I remember feeling this contention, and it was thick, like chaos, arguing, verbal fighting. And I remember seeing this black thing sitting outside the bathroom. Faces, in my guided imageries, I don't get like faces real well. It gets kind of blurred out. I just get the images, the colors that they're wearing or whatever. And I remember seeing this black thing sitting outside the bathroom. And then in the guided imagery, of course, I walk out, get back in the car, and then the guided imagery is over. Well, here's what happened in real life. I go to court on my 16th conviction felony. And I am sentenced to do a victim impact panel. 120 hours community service. Breathalyzer in my car. Adult probation and parole. No time. None. On a first degree felony. My overpriced attorney, underpriced attorney, he couldn't believe it. I had a hard time believing it. I was like, what the hell is going on? Well, like it was just amazing. And I wasn't even thinking about the future timeline anymore at all. Wasn't even thinking about it. Like it was like, that was the last thing on my mind. Like, I was just, having this bizarre, rare, crazy moment in court. And, in court, that was at that court, there was another thing where I decided to follow some advice. My wife's mother tells me, when I go in there to court, that I should, the way she puts it is call upon my angels. And observe and admit and accept and express of, you know, the support and love I have in my life, whether still here or on the other side of the veil. And it helped a lot. I was calm. It was peaceful. I could hear and understand and take in the data. So we leave the courthouse. We go to Maverick. I walk, you know, and as I walk in, I see this kid. He was black. He's all dressed in black clothing, and I see another kid like jeans and, you know, black shirt.
So this is actual life.
This is actually happening
actually
right here.
happening.
Like I'm there, and both guys standing outside the Maverick have backpacks on, right? So I walk in. I walk in and I take a right over to get the hot dog and making it, and this guy walks in. One of the guys that was standing out front, he walks in and gets in an argument with the clerk. And the clerk tells him, "No, you can't use the restroom. You can't take your backpack in the restroom to use it. You can't do that. You got to leave the backpack out here." And then one guy's that guy's yelling at the clerk. They're at it, right? And so the kid throws a fit. He puts his backpack down outside the bathroom and goes in. And it hits me right then. I'm like, holy shit. And I took a couple of steps, like after getting my hot dog, my bag of chips, I'm like taking a couple of steps, and I'm like, if there's a black pack, and it didn't occur to me that the black pack was put down at that point yet. Like I was just thinking in my head, going, oh my God, I'm gonna get past this point walking, and there's gonna be a fucking black backpack. They're in there. I know it. So I kind of creeped up, just, you know, kind of heebie-jeebies, and there's a fucking big-ass black backpack sitting out in the bathroom. It was like, holy shit. I paid for my stuff and left. That was pretty significant. You know, the night before I went to court that day, something was interesting is my wife had never really been introduced to like the neg entropy technique, neg entropy walk, right? And so I wasn't prepared enough to walk myself through it at the time. So I had my wife. So here you go. Here's what I'm going to be doing when I step here. This that questions you ask, you know. And she did it like she'd been teaching it for years, and the first time she'd ever done it, or even been introduced to that technique. And the neg entropy walk, the neg entropy technique. This is a identity level. Can I place some of the, me doing this neg entropy walk the day before I go into this court hearing? I'm absolutely positive it had a lot to do with what went on and what has gone on since to this day. Going from thug to what my wife, my attorney, he says that or identified me as Amy. Can you tell? Well, how do you say it?
A gangster.
A gangster.
A real gangster.
A real gangster. My attorney, I love the guy. He tells me this, I'm just like, oh crap, I'm going to prison, Going from that sort of lifestyle to where I'm at today, and I'll get into it a little bit more, where I'm at today. But it was a rough life, and mostly it was me doing it. I made it rough. I'm not a victim. I created the chaos in my life.
Which,
As did everybody in this room.
which almost begs the question, if we're, for those of us that have done these techniques that you're talking about and have experienced phenomenal levels of success, and exponential levels of success with these techniques, it almost begs the question, have we been this powerful all along? Could it be fair to say that perhaps that might be valid? That even our life before that, perhaps we could speculate and say I actually did create some of the heartbreak that I experienced, or some of the to sort of be on the flip side, or to flip the script, so to speak, right? So an experience like this is just is amazing.
So, absolutely. You want to know how I know?
Yes,
Because I see the misery. I hear it anyways. People tell me about it, or in the way that they bring themselves to the table at times. The experiences you tell. It is all within you. Even the opposite or greater of the very lowest, dullest, angriest, depressed, suicidal. That opposite's already in you. You just get to be it. It's yours. It's all yours. It always has been. It's up to you to be it. It's already within you. So as you walk around, and living, whether it's in a place with 40 other people that are quite similar to you, or not, because you don't like them, because they bother you, well, guess what? The more people around that bother you, you are so blessed. You are so blessed. Because the root word in bothers is both. You cannot see something in someone else without it being within you. That might be a hard pill to swallow. The level of learning more of yourself, the level of being able to heal yourself more is going to come into the application of what I just said. Actually taking a second and going, that bothers me. Like, what a fucking asshole. And then going, okay. Let's leave that where it is for now. Let's take a look at this. Why is this? Why does this? Because it is this. Why does it bother me? Like, put some accountability into it. And you're going to find some ways to create healing. You're going to find some perspective that just grows from it. From taking a look in here. And patience and understanding it goes a long way in recovery. It goes a long way in learning to be an open system. It goes a long way in communicating with others. Correspondence. What was I going to go into?
Correspondence is correspondence. This whole process, is contingent upon correspondence, and certainly integrity, like you said earlier, is a vital part of that. Some of my experiences is you talked a little bit about being accountable, and then a breakthrough will happen. There were times where I didn't, or I've seen others, not really sure about wanting to experience a level of accountability openly, but through the techniques or through certain questionings, the information comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on the table for them to actually look at outside of their self maybe for the first time in their life, right there, and then people look at it and, you know, some of them, my friends, some of them, myself, look at it and like, I can't deny what's here.
Right.
Even if no one's here to see it, I still can't deny what's here. And with this, you know, with this information, there's so much to work with. There's so much to work with, and it becomes not burdensome, but it becomes truly a gift.
Yeah. Let me organize it a little bit more for you. Okay, so the human experience, conscious and subconscious, right? What I was able to learn is the way what my conscious is, my subconscious is, what my limbic system is, and the way they work, the way this works for a human being. Okay, and so based off, you know, coming to understand my subconscious, it's just processing, it's filing, you know, for hopefully the data is triggered in the subconscious to come up to conscious and give me some information, right? And then conscious, it perceives, evaluates, judges, and decides. Correct? So I can choose what I perceive, evaluate, judge, and decide any way I want, right? Now, in doing so, I could also choose to perceive, evaluate, judge, and decide two more things that are more positive, because that's going to trigger something to come to conscious, right? For me to again perceive, evaluate, judge, and decide about, to go back down into the subconscious and over and over and over and over and over, just infinitely, pretty much, right? And that's crazy. And it's just crazy. So one of my ways of addressing this concept of, you know, my subconscious with all this data, and for the most part, it was a lot of negative crap data, you know, begin creating, as Janie put it, begin creating positive memories. Begin creating positive future memories. Begin experiencing things more positively. So I began to do that. A lot of it. Which now the majority of the things that comes to conscious is positive versus how it was almost 5 years ago. A lot of negative crap, you know. Learning of addictive language. Learning the release technique to assist me in gaining and having in my life all of these things that I kept away from me because of my addictive language, right? Like success, or love, forgiveness, compassion. I got to change my linguistics, and that's my linguistics. This is where I started because this is tangible. I could say, get to, rather than I have to. That was tangible for me. That I could hold that, right? I could say, okay, you're telling me, because I didn't know what change was. I had no idea what the definition of change was. I heard it a lot, mostly from judges, AP&P, my mom and dad, you know. Seriously, I could not tell you the definition my entire life of what change is. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Like, that's how closed off it was. But they're telling me you do different in same or similar situations, and that's change, right? Wow, Janie, that sounds really simple. So, fuck, how do I do this? What, you know? Well, perceive differently, evaluate differently, judge differently, decide differently, you know. And I had this linguistics, and I had a little bit of background with NLP before coming to Matter, but not a lot. But it was tangible. It was something I could change. I could change those words, you know. And so I started with linguistics. That's where I started doing different in same or similar situations, and something crazy started happening. My experience started changing. exponentially, skyrocketing change. Like things were happening. Magic was happening. I could, in conscious, subconscious, it talks about symbols too, and sensory symbolizing some there. And in the first 30 days, there's a lot of techniques we're learning with sensory symbols, right? One of the things that I would shut down about at first was my brain could not keep up with the sensory symbolizing in the technique. I couldn't keep up. Like I couldn't imagine the shape and the color before they said sound, imagine sound, right? I couldn't do it until I started listening to the directions. The directions. You only need 3 of them. So I started there. And I'd identify with 3. I'd work to get them all. I identified with 3. And as soon as it started working, the techniques would work. It was like magic. Boom. All of a sudden, it was sensory symbolizing. Boom, 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 boom. All of them. Because I decided to cut myself a little slack and actually follow directions. And believe in what's being told, what's being shared with me. In conscious, subconscious, when I was reading it, it wasn't that hard or difficult to understand that book. That book was pretty simple, pretty basic for me, and I apologize if it's kind of rocket science to some of you, and that's okay, because the books that followed conscious, subconscious for me, Holographic Human Transformation Theory, Physics of Closed Systems, Addictions, and Physics of...
Is your Correspondence?
Not yet. That book had not been written yet. Yeah, I'll get there. And then
so much is coming out. It's just
and then Physics of Entropy, Success. Those were more like rocket science. So Janie, in her writing, the way that she writes, it's throughout the books, is there's some repetition, right? And it kind of cycles at least 3 times throughout the book with the same or similar concept, just with more added to it throughout the books. And what I decided to do, because of the rocket science, it was a challenge to me. Maybe that's what kept me interested, was because I didn't know it all. And I'm very competitive. I got to be the best. I have to do the best. I'm very competitive like that. And so it was a challenge for me. And so I swallow it, like I'm just trying to take it all in. And I decided that, I've always done things the fast way. I just try to get through it. I was going to take it slow. So I would read a portion of, and the order I read it in was Physics of Closed Systems. It used to be called Open and Closed Systems, right? I read that one second, okay? Because it was more relatable to my experience and the things I've gone through. And so I could use that relating to it to help make it make sense. The other parts that didn't. So I would read sometimes a sentence. Sometimes it was a paragraph. Sometimes it was a page. Sometimes it was a 2 or 3 pages. And then I'd take some time with what was read in this part of the book, whether it was a sentence or a couple of pages, and ponder. And take this information, this data, and apply it in my past. Lay it over my past. Let's see how it worked. Let's see how it applied, right? And then apply it in the present. How is this playing out? How can I make sense right now in my life the way that things are going? And then, once that part of the process was done, I'd lay all that out in the future. How could this benefit me by applying it, right? And I do that throughout the rest of the books, just like that, piece by piece, line upon line, precept upon precept. Oh gosh! And since then, I've read the books. I couldn't even give you a number, and I have no idea. Over 20 times each.
And it's wonderful to have the resources and the printed material in the form that we have them now. That you know, the group, you know, at large, you know, can experience and read it. A lot of times, for us that were early, you know, here in Matter, you know, we didn't have this much information, and we would stumble upon it, or, you know, in our minds, and bring it to Janie, and Janie would try to help us to understand, or we would try to understand, and it's just wonderful to see the volumes of material that have been yeah.
I
So-
didn't know if you could see, but you've had several hands.
I'll get there. So open and closed systems, okay? The second book I read. To understand what tolerance is and how it's applied in my life, and how it applies to me in my relationships, communication, to have a greater understanding from a different perspective of how I showed up for me and how I've showed up for others in my life. The technique, open system technique, just mind-blowing. Open and closed systems. Coming to understand that as I continue to deny, refuse, or repress, I'm just continuing that cycle. And it was, you know, that cycle has to do with the entropy cycle. The next book I'm going to talk about, or the not next book, but the final book, I'll talk. Well, anyways, I'll get there. That I would, all these things in my life, whether it was a goal, you know, things I was doing, whatever it was, you know, I'd form it and I'd norm it and then fulfill it and plummet, right? It's exhausting, old, discouraging. And because I did not address these things that I've been so closed about in my life, that reality perpetuated over and over and over with everything. All aspects of my life, right? So I got a lot of data about me and the understanding of open and closed systems. And that helped me make some incredible changes. Just knowing myself more in regards to closed systems. And understanding it's the closed systems that eventually for me led to my drug use. And understanding for me that the term closed systems and addictive systems, that term's interchangeable. It's the same term. Addictive systems, that means that closed systems are addictive, which means that if I choose to be around closed systems, if I choose to communicate and associate and be in relationship with closed systems, then I'm going to close up in those same systems. That's important for me to understand. You know, that's important for me to understand when communicating with Amy as she's, you know, struggling in her closed systems. You know, that I get to step back and work at being more objective rather than, because I'm naturally subjective and functionist. So I get to, you know, work towards being a little more objective versus subjective so that I can think, right? So that I can experience and be conscious of what's going on. The next book I read was Holographic Human Transformation Theory. And all these books are under the umbrella of Holographic Human Transformation Theory. My learning of my firing order, understanding me and the way I process information, learning more of others and the way they process information and their body language, and those programs within the learning of the flat map of the holographic human and the major and minor meta programs. Incredibly beneficial. The body language, linguistics, is so important for me to learn. And you know how I learned body language. Like I could not do the flat map on the board for a long time, actually. It was crazy. Though I decided that I would check in with myself, my body language in group or whatever. I'd check in about every 5 or 10 minutes, right? I would just, as I was talking, pay attention to where my body is, where my limbs are, how my head's tilted, whatever, about every 5, 10 minutes. And it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And I look at my body language, my left knee is up over my right leg, or my left leg's up over my right leg, on my right knee, and my head's tilted to the right. And I'm sitting there thinking of these things that, value, and I'm just strategizing my way through whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, this is bizarre. Like, and it's real. Like, it's real, and it helps me understand my programs more. It helps me understand my processing more, the way in which I fire. It gives me more options to make different choices in same or similar situations, right? Something that maybe would benefit me a little more, right? Or integrate something to benefit me more. And then, and it's helped me in communication with everyone else. Part of what I do today, it's important for me, and with my purpose, part of my purpose is helping others and guiding others, right? I can do this better if I know the real truth. I don't have to depend on what you say to me anymore, because I can see it. I can see it in your body language. And this helps me help them. It also helps me learn and know more about me too, which is really cool.
So it does. It literally aligns with know thyself. Heal thyself, and with the potential of helping us to heal each other at the same time.
Right.
It's a very intimate, very special, and sacred experience to be here with each other. Human beings come in as strangers. We have things in common, so many things in common, and yet move forward. With the information that we get to, we have the opportunity, that we experience the opportunity of learning. Can it be scary at first? Absolutely, it is. Sometimes frightening. The well of information, however, is absolutely amazing.
And it's worded in the books copious.
Very copious.
So,
Matty, I get you to.
Yes.
so
Not too
holographic
far.
human transformation theory is going to talk a lot about correspondence, and I'll get there in a moment, because there's a newer book. It's called Physics of Correspondence Wholeness. But let's move on to conscious, subconscious, open and closed systems, and then holographic human transformation theory. And then I read a book called Physics of Success, Entropy, Negentropy. The book name's changed since, but anyways. Wow. I had just gotten through, previously, learning all this just thick stuff of physics of addictions, right? Just thick. And now I have an answer. Because if we're gonna change, we get something to choose positive to do, right? We can't just keep going through life just not choosing that, because it's just not gonna turn out well. We get to choose something positive to do, right? So now I have this answer, this physics of success. I'm like, okay, now we're talking my language, but I can't fucking understand it. And so like I said, that process that I went through the books after conscious, subconscious, is applying the past, applying the present, find ways for it to benefit by applying it in the future. Okay? Might sound like a slow process, but it is thorough, and it works. It worked for me. And a whole bunch of repetition, compounding, modeling. It's how we learn. It's how we always have learned. So now that I know this, about the way that human beings learn and always have learned, I can use this to my benefit in my actions moving forward, right? We talked a little bit about the entropy cycle, this horrific cycle that just kept me in and out of lockup, in and out of grief and misery and hate and anger and abandonment and shame and returning to substances. And when I learned about negentropy, so negentropy, this is a term actually made up, which is the antonym of entropy. Okay, that's the term that Janie Marvin made up. Negentropy, the opposite of entropy. And to know and to understand that I can continue success. I have the ability to make a goal, and I have the ability to continue making goals and accomplishing goals. That there's a way through, another way to live. And it's just the opposite. And I know most like people in this room, a lot of you, if you just did the opposite, you'd be all right. You know, there's a lot of truth to it. A lot of truth to it, in my experience. And the techniques, the more identity level techniques that have been working for me in my life, and have been working for me in my life, offered in this book, the negentropy walk. I don't know who's had an opportunity to negentropy. What a surreal experience. Walk to success. And then being aware of it, this data with success and this data that comes up, this skyrocketing that happens, that takes place, just in our choices to do things differently, be successful. You know, the concept, and it's from conscious, subconscious, of being leads to having. Holy cow. Like, I remember sitting there in the group room thinking about this concept of being leads to having. And in my mind, this is, at the time, was, she's crazy. That's impossible. How's anything ever going to get done? How's anything going to get accomplished? And here's another concept for me that helped in my life for me to make some changes and learn the material more was, okay, fine. I got some things that, I'm having a hard time with believing or swallowing or understanding, so guess what? I'm going to challenge it. My way of challenging it involves a real challenge, doing it. Okay? You can't challenge someone. You get to do it. You can't just say, no, I don't believe in that. Not going to work for me. No, I don't believe in that. I'm not doing it. No. I tried that. I'm sorry. That's not challenging it. That's being a little asshole. So challenge it. Do it. And be it. So this is a concept I did it with. Okay. I'm thinking to myself, I'm in school right now, which I was in school while I was here at residential, online, with UVU. This being leads to having. After a group, I'm like, oh boy, that felt really great, really cool. Okay, Janie, I will be. What do I want to be? I want to be a substance abuse counselor. I want to help people. Well, fuck, you can't be all that, Sean, You just come in off the streets. Dope sick. Breaking laws. Hurting people. Abandoning your family. You can't be any of that. Oh, I thought about it a little bit more. I'm like, okay, well, let's move on from here. And it will just be, what does it take to be a substance abuse counselor? Or somebody that works for, works in a treatment center helping other people. What is it? Well, integrity. Okay, so let's be integrity. Takes love. Let's be love. Takes compassion. Let's be compassionate. It takes being my word. So be my word. And so all these things that make up my idea of the best possible a substance abuse counselor I just decided to be. Well, you guys all know what I do today, right? I work with others with addiction and mental health.
It's pretty cool.
Every day, and I do. I place a lot of that credit to being leads to having. So that concept today is like, duh, yeah, of course, being leads to having. Yeah, that concept then it was like way out there. Couldn't grasp it. I fully challenged it, and I fully got proven wrong, which is awesome. Today, prove me wrong some more. I'm okay with it. It brings the joy that I experienced today. Whew. Yeah, I'm all about it. All right, let's get to the new book.
Which one?
Physics of Correspondence, Wholeness. We talked about purpose. Everybody in this room, I think, is very clear and aware of the importance I lay on purpose, right? Key. So key. The physics of correspondence. It's the physics of communication. It's the interaction between all elements. It's the correspondence between everything that makes things work. It's not just this subjective part of me, but also the objective. It's not only my sense of sound, but also my sense of sight, my sense of touch, my sense of energy, my sense of taste, my sense of smell, my sense of self. Elements of myself, my life, my whole being, interrelating interdependently and communicating throughout. Kind of like the way, the way I'm breathing. Okay? My body is whole enough for me to just continue breathing, and it just works out, right? My blinking, it's necessary. Keeps the eyes moist, all the other physiological automatic functions just properly functioning. It keeps me whole. Correspondence governs function, and function is purpose. Function is purpose in action. Purpose in action, right? So, for correspondence to govern function, in my mind, that's pretty damn important, right? Pretty important. I mean, we already talked about how important purpose is. and there's purpose not only just in our self, while we're here, why we are living at this time, right now. There's also purpose in any and everything we do. And for correspondence to govern it, so important. I have a little story about correspondence, and I've got many stories, but here's the theme of it. We opened an office in Orem, and the correspondence between Janie and those of us at the outpatient office, there wasn't much communication. It was kind of going crap, right? And some things evolved, and I decided I had sat back and paid attention to another person that was being counseled by Janie about correspondence, and I just kind of watching it, kind of, go to crap. Well, for me, and I was, I thought a lot about that. I'm like, okay, well, what can I do to increase the correspondence? Well, call Janie at minimum every other day. Go to Matter and talk with Janie at least once a week. And so that was what I did and I committed to do. And here I am. Now I show up twice a week, and I'm on the phone with Janie constantly, very often, at least every other day, if not every day. And when the correspondence grew, when there was greater correspondence, the outpatient blew up. Like it's still going, it's still going really strong. I see it. Take a look at your jobs. Take a look at the jobs you've had, Kate. You didn't show up. You didn't communicate with your boss. How'd that job go? Right? Didn't go very long. Didn't last very long, did it? Or it was a horrible relationship. Think about the relationships you've been in. Girlfriends, wives, husband, whatever. Whatever it might be. When the communication was not there, when you weren't corresponding with the relationship, what happened? Crumbled. When there was greater correspondence and communication and things going on in the relationship, those were probably our happiest times, right? Correspondence is so incredibly important, and I implore anybody to bring this in, and I can do better with it. My wife's probably sitting over here going, "You son of a," I can do better with it. It is limitless. The potential is limitless. There's more, greater always. There is no plateau. There's no finish lines. There's no, when I have this, everything's going to be better. When I get done with APMP, everything will get better. When I get done with treatment, everything will be better. No, it just doesn't work that way. There are no finish lines. And, it's likely you're not going to take that from me. It's likely that you're going to learn the hard way again. Maybe. I hope not. I'm certainly sure I had somebody saying similar things to me, not the exact, but some similar things to me, and I sat in a room like this and, I didn't listen. I wanted to hurt. A part of me got to grow some more. I couldn't figure out then that I didn't have to learn the hard way. Now I know I don't have to learn the hard way. I don't have to feel the pain to change. I don't have to. I can watch and pay attention to the data in my environment and choose to change because I get to be more successful, or because this gives me an opportunity to help more people. I'm going through a hugely transformative thing right now in my career. Like, I was just a junkie 5 years ago. Homeless. Running dope. Not caring about anybody. Today, director of outpatient services for a substance use and mental health treatment program, where several clients are placed in my hands to help several people and to teach and to guide and to be a part of their journey and hopefully influence them to do better and be better and experience joy and create success in their lives. Me. I get to do this. I've been doing it for last 3 years or so. But I get to do this. And there's not anybody in this room that is limited to the success I created. Not one of you. Anybody in this room can create more success, more joy, more love, more of anything and everything you ever wanted, ever imagined, or even pretended to imagine. You have it within you. It is yours. You just get to believe and choose. That's it. That's it. And you're thinking, oh, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Apply. These things that you're learning here, through these, oh my gosh, there's so much more about physics correspondence, but that'll probably be a whole nother set. These techniques that you're learning, holographic human transformation theory, and open and closed systems, conscious and subconscious, and physics of success, physics of correspondence, the guided imageries, all these techniques. We are teaching those for you to create success. You cannot do them enough. You can't. Repetition and compounding, keep learning. Model from others, find ways to make it work. There is, as far as the techniques go, as the guided imageries, I have never had a negative experience. I just haven't. I have had experiences in guided imageries or techniques where I got emotional, where I cried, where I didn't like some of the data that come up. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't beneficial or that it was a negative experience. Not by any means. We are teaching you these to be successful so that you can create healing in your life and the lives around you, so you can give back to what you took so much of, what I took so much of. If it's a tool bag that you've been working on, putting your tools in, and you just seem to, drop the tool bag off before you leave, find something different. Maybe it's a backpack that's strapped to you, and you're throwing the tools in, as you're learning them, so that you're sure you're going to walk away from learning holographic human transformation theory, so that you have those tools and you take with you. Okay? They're pointless unless you use it. We're not teaching you this to use it now. We teach this for you to use it your entire life, for you to build upon it, integrate things in your life that's going to make you more successful, ongoing. No finish lines. This is what's made the difference in my life. And I'm not saying that my life is completely peaches and cream and it's just happy-go-lucky every single day, and I'm not tempted, you know what I mean? I'm tempted. Doubt sets in sometimes. Old programs sometimes come up. The difference is that today I have the tools to overcome. I have the knowledge and understanding of myself that I can do different, ongoing. There were some things that changed in my life that I did different in same or similar situations when I was first learning holographic human transformation theory. And you know what? That's all fine and dandy. Those things, making those changes, created success. But guess what? I'm not okay with those still being just like that, though. Right? It gets to change too. Change has changed. Change will always change. We get to change. We get to be connected, experience oneness, experience the connection from other people, our loved ones, and work to create more of the good things in life for us. Because if you're successful, are you going to be using drugs? Are you going to be indulging in mental health challenges without having some answers and ways to cope with and deal with, right? Right. You do. You have that ability. Every single one of you do. I know I do. I think that wraps up most of it. I did want to go to some questions. Matty, did you have any questions for me?
Most of it actually just scratches the surface. We get to a point where we think just and I've been around so many who have experienced this. We get to a point where I think I got this figured out. I know what this is, and then out of nowhere, it just opens up so much more. From coming in as with addiction, at very least with the techniques that I've learned to apply, that Sean's been talking about, and sharing with us, is we can recover, but not just recover, not just heal, to be healed, but to be able to shoot past the mark and be able to do amazing things, abundantly amazing things. And you name it, the sky is the sky the limit? Richard Bach, the author, wrote, "Argue your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours."
Thank you, Matty.
Yeah.
One of the it's what's crazy and it blows my mind to this day. And I think about it is when I did my future timeline about what I'm doing today in my life. This is like 10 years past. That's like 10 years still more in the future. So I was talking about future timelines and like my detail on my timeline. Some of it was a little, just at that time for me to even become who I am and what I do today was like, I'll be happy if that's 50 years out there. I'm good. Like, that's cool. And it's been at less than 5.
And the great thing about these timeline work is the stuff that we saw we place on our timeline, the things that came in from the peripheral, we get to experience it more and more. Certainly, I mean this is just Sean's timeline story.
Right.
There's so many timeline stories. There's so many, and so really, really just amazing ones. Imagine, use your imagination, believe, and if you can't do that, pretend to imagine, and see what happens.
Awesome. Thanks, Matty.
Yeah.
All right, so I know we had a few hands up. I am going to go with, first one I noticed up was over here, and then there, and then there. And then we'll go on to the rest. What did I say first? Over here? So, nope, I think it was with you, sir. Go ahead.
Is this for like newcomers or to be watching this?
I'm sure that all sorts of people will be watching this. I'm sure that it'll probably be broken up in segments and used for whatever purposes to help people. So if you have a question.
I don't know that it's a question, but as far as this goes, this material, I know that I was very scared to get into it. And the more that I got into it, it was rough to get into it. Still in all, I can tell that I'm a better person because of this. And it is tremendously changing my life. And I'm so happy that I got to be here for your story, man.
Yeah.
It's been good.
One of the things I'd encourage you to do is, I know through the process there's like some techniques that it's like, I don't want to do that one, or that one, it doesn't seem important. Those are the ones you want to go after. The one that you don't want to do it, and dig in. Like I have a good friend of mine, when he says get weird with it, do the technique. Like dive into those. The ones you don't know, or the ones you don't think will work, or whatever. Do it. Give yourself a chance. Discontinue resisting.
Before
Bri-
you answer another question,
Hi.
if anybody would like to step out, use the restroom, have your lunch, it's actually the second group, so you guys have missed lunch, but it's sitting out for you, so if you would like to come and get it, please feel free to do so really quickly.
We've been time traveling.
Yeah, it's blown by then.
Oh, sorry.
Awesome, I just wanted to make sure you knew it was available.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks.
Cool, it's going well.
Thank you.
So exciting.
All right, question over here.
Okay, you're talking about the sensory symbols,
Uh-huh.
and I know that's the part that makes it real in our subconscious when we're doing these techniques that have those in them. I know the way I personally perceive that experience of visualizing the senses, but I'm curious to know the way you process that, especially the taste, smell, and sound. Because when I'm doing it, I visualize like a scene, and I try to incorporate everything into one thing instead of just saying to make it more real in my mind.
Okay, so the part of the point in the sensory symbolizing is there is a vast amount of data, okay, in the way we symbolize, okay? And so by sensory symbolizing this desired outcome, right? You can give it a shape, triangle. You can give it a color, orange. That was trippy. I didn't even think orange. I was thinking yellow. Give it a sound, birds chirping. Give it a taste, coffee. Give it a smell, skunky. I give it a temperature, a texture. It's like a brick, give it an energy, warm feeling of what I think might be love, like right in here, just vibrating, and then identifying, it's just simple like that. Keep it simple. And it's within 2 seconds. The first thing that comes to mind with a shape, color, sound, taste, smell, texture, temperature, and energy. It's just the first thing. That's the subconscious. That's the data coming up, data being triggered by give it a taste. Boom. It's the first thing. There's a lot of data in there, and it will come to conscious. Things will begin to change as you learn to sensory symbolize, as you learn to be patient with yourself and believe. Okay? It doesn't have to be complicated. That's not what it's looking for. It's quick, immediate. First thing that comes up, that's what it is.
And sometimes
And it has meaning. You don't have to be conscious at this moment of what the meaning is. You just get to believe.
Sometimes it feels like when I'm doing sensory submodalities, the color and shape does not correspond with each other, or they might be vastly different. Or any along the line of any of the sensory submodalities, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes I go with the first thing that comes to my mind. Sometimes it's ridiculous. I'm like, where did that come from? But I go with it anyway. Sensory submodality visualization is something. It's a skill that we can learn and practice more and more outside the realm of actually creating with sensory submodalities. If we're as we're using them, you can spend some time and actually just don't think of the color orange. What orange? And go down the line just like that. And practice that. So when we actually are in the process of creating, you know, or letting information find us, come to us. You know, the color, shape, sound, texture, smell, energy, whatever, you know, becomes more fluid, and actually we have greater control over it if we so choose to do it that way.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Can I rebuttal on that a little bit? Sorry, a little response. So what I heard you say, it doesn't necessarily need to be complicated. First thing, especially for like the shift, because you're doing 2 sections. The reason I'm saying that, because you're similarizing them. If you're just doing it boom, 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 are you still visualizing it?
I mean, absolutely. As you're going through any of the guided imageries or any of the techniques that Jeannie's created, it's an experience throughout, right? When it comes to sensory symbolizing, just give the sensory symbols, and then with some of the techniques with the sensory symbols, it's going to have you make more similar, right? And it's okay to take, you know, your circle and your triangle or whatever, you know, shapes that you chose and make them more similar. It's an important process in it. Okay, and we get to believe, we get to trust and experience. So make them more similar. Make those colors of, you know, yellow and blue turn to purple or whatever, you know what I mean? Make more similar in any way that you imagine.
And if that's what happens when you're in techniques like this, that yellow and blue do turn into purple, go with it. You know, that's sometimes it just is that way. It's abstract. It sometimes doesn't seem to make sense, and it's like, how is this going to work?
Meaning though.
Yeah, but there is, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, you bet. Then we had gentleman over here. Go ahead.
Referring to holographic, what was that technique? You were talking about your future timeline. I'm at that level where I get to start doing future timelines.
Nice.
My question is, can you remember with preparing your mind, yourself, your soul, whatever, to setting it to stage for doing that timeline instead of just jumping right into it? What did you prepare, meditate, anything?
Something incredible, something wonderful, something so amazing. If you were to experience it, it would bring you joy. It would bring you peace. It would bring you success, right? Okay. I have a number of things just in my mind right now for my future now, like to do that I could do, right? Just choose one. You know, would it be incredible for you to, let's say, have a job, like a career, working with individuals similar to you, that you've, you know, things that you've experienced, helping them become greater?
Most definitely.
Or, you know, you created your own tools and you're very successful and you have a lot of money, you have great relationships, you know what I mean? Anything you choose. Dare to believe.
Yeah.
Put it out there. Set it out there on your future timeline and put everything. Follow the guided imagery. Follow the technique. Follow the directions in it. It walks you through it. There is no guessing. You just get to do it. And it's yours.
Well, thank you.
You bet.
I'm not as organized. I'm a little bit more. I'm more scatterbrained. And when I did a timeline, I wish I had prepped for it. You know, I was kind of on the spot when I did my first one, and the first one was successful. Is still successful, and I had fun with it. The interesting aspect of this timeline is that yes, while I was creating something, taking the chance to create something on the spot, right? I got wild with it. It was the information that came beyond the future moment that I was creating, that was actually really caught my attention. There were unsuspecting things that I hadn't seen, hadn't even really visited or entertained in my mind at the time prior to me doing the technique. So pay attention if you're doing, if you're ready to get into this, to experiment with this. It's fun. Be daring. Use all your senses, and be present with it, and pay attention to the details in the peripheral, because that's the surprise of the technique. The creating part of it is fun. But the surprise, that prize in do they still have prizes in cereal boxes? It's that, so.
We had a question right here.
No, that interrupted you. I had asked you, and then they went to the camera. Remember prior to the camera being turned on?
Okay.
Do you remember what it was?
Go ahead with your question again. I wanted you to bring it back up, but go ahead.
No, it was just me asking you about
About
the similarities about the deaths and incarcerations and the abuse of the methamphetamine and being out there, like I said, like a chicken with my head cut off, just running amok, and what it's gotten me, and that remember me telling you that I didn't want that life no more. I'm tired, I'm too old, and that change has to come. And it is going to come. It doesn't have to come. It is going to come.
right. I remember being in a similar, from what you're telling me, I remember being in a similar contemplating stage, if you will, like me making this commitment to myself. But I knew that in order for me to do that, some things got to change. I got to find some positive things to choose to do to replace, right? So, and one of the things that got to change was my beliefs, especially in regards to what was, in a sense, my kryptonite, right? And that was when anybody passed away, starting with my little brother. And it tore me down, and I allowed my response to death, from what I remember really starting with my little brother. I mean, the beliefs was already there that death was death. There was life, and then there was death, right? And all this stuff that come along with this death was black and just nasty, and there was anger in there and hatred in there, and not only for myself, but for even, I tried to hate my little brother, be angry with him. I tried to hate God.
But the guilt too, the guilt of not being there, being incarcerated and feeling like, how did it ever get to this point? Even now, even though I'm here at Matter, and my sister told me, that to focus on this, but at the same time, me wanting to leave and go and be a part of my family, my nieces and nephews and all them, and remembering telling you that it's been so long since I've been out of their lives. And then like my daughter, I told you about that, about it's a broken record, the same story, the same promises over and over, and it's to the point where it's, okay, that I know, you could tell by the tone of her linguistics, you could tell that she doesn't believe none of it. And even, once again, even being in treatment, because like I told you, the treatments were never done for me. They were done for somebody else.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Right.
yeah. I mean, and that's another thing that really concerns me, is that, yeah, because I don't get those wanting to go and use. And I know they're gonna come, because everybody's told me. Everybody's told me, yeah, you're riding a good high right now. But there's gonna come a day, even Dion told me, she's been sober, what, 20-something years? And she says she has now, and the only difference that she says she doesn't use today is because she weighs out the consequences. Her family, her job, everything else that she has to lose, as in going and getting high. And she told me already, is that gonna work next week? I don't know, I'm not there next week yet. So I have that today to hold on to. So there again, I'm worried about, you know, am I prepared when that day comes where, you know, them anomalies just start piling up on me and start hitting me from every angle, and boom, I just go, ah, you know what I'm saying? And yeah,
So,
you know.
Let me respond to this part, because I think it is really important. Let me respond to this part, and then we got to move on, because there's other questions, and I'm afraid they want us coming out of here pretty
Okay.
soon. The intent of an anomaly is to pull potential out. Okay? And we get to keep this in mind. We're not a victim. Anomalies don't come from out here. Anomalies, even the car that hit me in traffic, that the anomaly in and of itself didn't come from out here. These anomalies we experience in our lives, these are built in from the beginning. Okay? They're ours. They're for our benefit. It's to pull potential out of us, okay? So, and I'm going to touch up a little bit here on the idea of am I prepared? Am I ready to get out there and go and do this, right? My response to that is the closed system response of using drugs, right? That's not where the addiction started. It's the other closed systems. It's the things like sympathizing. It's the things like doubt, indulging in beliefs contrary to the true self, doing things that go against your values. These are the things, these self-limiting behaviors, these are the things that create life's hardships. These are the things that, yeah, using, you don't have cravings, you don't feel like using. But guess what? There are other things that could go on first that might lead you there. Okay? It's not just the drug. You didn't just fucking use one day when you were high. That's not it. There was a lot of things that built up to it, a lot of other closed systems. And then that became one of your ways in which you closed up. You began, using to medicate, to deny, refuse, and repress. Right? It's about continuing to learn. That admitting that right up here, just a choice away is that using. It's right here. It's right on top of that cons list. It's there. And that, maybe someday that's the answer that comes for me. But I promise you, it's not. There's other ways we can work with our closed systems when we begin being closed up, where we face ourselves and go through the problem. Face it, go through. Okay? Which is very different than what most of us have the ways we responded in life before. It's about doing things different. It's about choice. And knowing we have choice at all times. It's what this is all about.
Is learning to capitalize and maximize our the way that we have access, the way that we are able to access choice at our full potential, and its choice as a design agency, as it was designed to be experienced by all of us. You know, for those of us who've lived a little longer, you know, we have accumulation of, you know, failures. We can look at them at failures, and it could be a closed system, and that's all they are. Or they could be the very birth of things great with the information that is contained in the failures. If we really dare to take a look at them, and there's a Chinese idiom or proverb that says, failure is the mother of success. And when we talk about entropy and negative entropy, certainly we can discover, we can take a look at those failures, apply it to the success cycle or success curve, and actually see outside of ourselves on paper, you know, or on a board, like, this is where I'm going wrong. This is where I'm plummeting. This is where this is happening. And actually, as Sean said, learn to do something different. Like actually being able to see and go, wait a second, hold on. Okay, maybe if I do something different right here, because usually I start to crash a bird like right here, but I'm feeling this way right here. You know,
Create another goal.
Yeah.
And then create another goal. And then create another goal. And keep going. Directly regarding what you just talked about. That's a difference in my recovery from learning the material, was that I didn't talk about it anymore. I was doing it.
It just happens.
I was just doing it. I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to promise anything. I could tell this woman, my wife, that didn't want anything to do with me. I could tell her, you know what? Yeah, I could. I'm giving it my all. That I'm doing right now. I'm not sure right now that's going to be good enough as far as if I using it or not. I'm giving it my go right now, and there's nobody that can deny that. And it's still where I'm at. With the new programs I have today, the things I've learned in holographic human transformation theory and about myself, I have a lot better chances than I ever have of remaining abstinent and free of drugs and being successful. I don't even worry about that part much anymore. You know, if I'm creating success and being successful, all that part's it's just kind of taken care of. Any other questions? Okay.
So on the past timelines and traumatic events, I heard that you might, like, you could go before the traumatic event and what led up to it?
Yeah, incredibly powerful. Absolutely. You know, one thing to keep in mind, you know, depending on where you're at and the way you go through change and the way that you approach things in your life, you got to keep some things in mind, okay? And we'll go back to conscious, subconscious. How do you eat an elephant, right?
One bite at a time.
Well, exactly, one bite at a time. So is this event so traumatic, so maybe I'm subjective to it that I might not get through it or be successful doing it? You just do it on this whole event, break it down, chop it up. Okay? Absolutely. You have my permission to do that, for sure.
Awesome.
And within that technique, there are other techniques too. You know, anchoring, muscle testing. While in training, because we are in training, you know, after lunch we listen to a technique in preparation to do some of these larger techniques that incorporate more techniques. Practice, strengthen that anchor that you may use in that, whatever technique it is that has that component in it, you know.
Definitely, and just remember, you know, these techniques that we're using, the guided imageries we do, the different experiential techniques. Sometimes you get to use one technique to help you cope or make sense of or come to a greater understanding of the guided imagery or technique that you just did, right? And then sometimes we got to pull in a shift or a walk after that, right? We're created that we might experience joy, okay? So there is a lot of room for success, unless you're experiencing joy 24/7, period, which none of us are, I don't think. I wish that was the case for me. I think that's about twinkling. I'm not sure I'm ready to twinkle anyways. Yeah, all of these techniques are for our benefit, for good, righteous, healing, love, and all these things I just spoke of, these things ripple out incredibly more powerfully and constant and perpetual than any of the negative things you've done. Okay? So just by you healing, has that same ripple effect, that healing ripple effect throughout your timeline, past and future. Everyone around you in your life, all the people you victimized, all the people that victimized you. That's how incredible choice is.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Anybody else? Amy, did you have anything? David?
Good.
Yes, I'm very grateful for each and every one of you that showed up in here today. It's so much easier for me to talk to an audience versus, I mean, Dave is interesting, though it's really, when I look up here where he sits, it's hard for me to see with the lights. I'd like to thank David for capturing all this on video. Matty, I appreciate you and your support and guidance and helping me stay organized.
And you're helping me understand this better too.
My beautiful wife. I'm incredibly grateful that you helped me find something from. I'm incredibly grateful that you helped me find something to help me heal, to help create success and joy and love in our lives, and that we can teach to our kids and to people around us. So thank you, and I love you. This filming today, I was going to do this today with being inside the phone booth that Joshua Smiskey was working on, Janie's son. And he was working on it for his mother, Janie, to do podcasts from. Okay? And so I was going to do this interview, this thing here, being inside the phone booth. And got to thinking about it a little bit and decided that I would just do it with the phone booth in our background, rather. And so when this gets developed and, all whatever director stuffness gets done to it, it will have the phone booth in our background. Okay? The phone booth has a great significance. Janie Marvin, the creator of Holographic Human Transformation Theory, and all the books and techniques and guided imageries that we've been talking about today. Joshua Smiskey's her son. And she is a person over the past several years now that she believed in me until I could believe in myself. She loved me until I could love myself. She is my friend, my mentor, and she's my employer today. And I'm honored to be able to teach her work to other people so that they can experience success, love, joy, anything that they choose to experience in their lives, that I can be a part of it. I'm honored and grateful. So, thank you. That's all I got today.
Thank you. Oh.